Christine, did you promote James? Or is he? Co-host is fine.
I just got the word Zoom's good, so we are going to start. Welcome to City Council, everyone, on this beautiful spring day. To begin, we have Pastor Jimmy Heston here to give us our invocation.
Mayor, Council, what a joy it is to be with you. It's a beautiful day in Utah's Dixie, and it is great to be here. As we go to pray, I want to encourage everyone with something that we were talking about this past weekend in church, and that is, as we've now clearly are coming to the end of what's been a very, very long year for most of us, there are still a lot of people who need to start thinking about what transitioning back to normal life looks like and coming back out of staying at home. And we're encouraging people to be intentional about that because, well, as I would put it, the enemy of our souls would love to keep people separated, alone, and distant. And it takes effort and a plan for those people. And for all of us, we all know people who have been maybe isolated for too long, and it's really important that we reach out in Christian love to those people to make sure that they're okay as they transition. Let us pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for this day and the ability to meet together in person. We ask for your blessing upon the business of this council, and as we transition back to normal life here in southern Utah, Lord, we just ask for your blessing upon all of us, and that the end of this pandemic is really going to be with us, and we are so grateful for having made it through this long and trying year. Again, bless the business of this council and all who come before it. We pray that in the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jimmy. It is so great to see faces and have people here again. And two of our favorite people, the mascots of the city council, are joining us again, the Bozeman. So I asked Judy if she'd lead us in the pledge.
Thank you. If you'd all stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. So we just have one pre-agenda item, and it is a proclamation that I will read for Arbor Day. Whereas in 1872, Sterling J. Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas the city of St. George recognizes the contributions a healthy community forest has to clean the air and water, reduce stormwater runoff, enhance energy conservation, improve public health and safety, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees in our city increase property value, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas the city of St. George has now been recognized as a Tree City USA for the past 30 consecutive years by the National Day Arbor Foundation. And whereas the city of St. George is committed to plant at least 500 new trees each year to renew its urban forest. Now, therefore, I, Michelle Randall, Mayor, along with the City Council of the City of St. George, Utah, do hereby proclaim April 30th, 2021 as Arbor Day. And our parks manager, Shane Moore, is here. Shane, you want to come up and talk to us a little bit about Arbor Day?
Sure. So this year our Arbor Day celebration is going to be down at the Tonnequin Cemetery, and we recently opened up a new section of the cemetery last year. We call it Section 1A, and it's closer to the Riverwood Mills and the Tonnequin Nature Center. We're going to be planting about 100 trees. We're going to meet at 9 a.m., 9 to 11 on April 24th, and we will have we haven't decided if it's going to be some breakfast food or some hot dogs, and there will be some free trees for people who come and visit. So we'd love to have you. We've had a lot of success in the last couple of years with the Nature Center, and if you ever walk around, that's been all Arbor Day projects. So,
Shane, I'm going to give you this proclamation really quick. Thank you.
Shane is the true definition of a tree hugger. I mean that in a nice way. He loves trees. If you want to see him smile, ask him about trees, and he will light up. In fact, I have a tree in my yard that he recommended that I plant, and it's doing really well. So, red, push, yes, that one. Yeah.
I know he's my go-to guy for anything related to trees, grass. What do I put on my grass now this time of year? So, Shane, you do a great job. We appreciate it. Adam, any changes to our agenda?
There is one change from the written agenda, and that would be that item number 5 has been removed at the request of the applicant. We're going to continue to work with the developer on that item, and we'll bring it back as soon as it's ready. But item 5 will not be heard tonight.
Okay, so anybody that is here to hear item number 5, we're not hearing it. You won't hear it tonight. Okay, Adam, let's get
All right,
to
we
it.
start with our consent calendar. We have 10 items on the consent calendar tonight. These are all ready to go. We've reviewed them. If there are any of these items that you'd like to take off for individual discussion, we're happy to do that. Otherwise, we would recommend approval.
As far as individual discussion, item 1J, our farmers market, I just wanted to give a shout out to them. They have been amazing. They've done such a good job organizing this farmers market and giving a venue for our local growers. And now that I live downtown, it's been really fun to be able to go almost every weekend. But of course, anyone can come and enjoy local produce. And I just really want to commend them for doing such a good job and making a great space for people who are trying to grow. You know, of course, we live in the desert, and it's very challenging to grow produce here, but people do it, and they do it well. And so it can be hard to market those things, and so they've given them this great venue. So I just wanted to point out how much I appreciate them.
And on item B, Adam has assured us that the Sunbowl on the south side, all of the upgrades to it will be completed in time for the rodeo in September, which will be awesome because if you visited the north side and seen the upgrades, you know how great those look. So I'm ready for a motion, Council.
Did you get the numbers all squared away on on B? As far as the county's additional commitment?
We've worked out all the details on that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Motion to approve the consent calendar, Mayor.
Second.
Motion by Danielle, seconded by Jimmy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, next we have a public hearing consideration of amendments to the current fiscal year budget. This is the FY21 budget. So our budget manager, Deanna Berklesich, is going to review that with us.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Hey, Dee.
So we have 75% of our fiscal year is completed now. We do have a lot of budget requests from the departments. As you can recall, we did reduce budgets due to COVID. I want to try something new. There's a lot of requests. I'd like to see do you want me to review each one of these, or do you just have any questions and I can hit the questions that you have instead of taking your precious time to go through each of these?
Council, did you review them all in your packet?
Yeah.
Do you have questions on any of the items?
Okay. So if you don't have any questions, then I'll go ahead and let you open the public hearing. And then if you have any questions, I can address them again. So.
All right, thank you, Dee. So this is a public hearing. If anybody has any comments about the amendments to the fiscal year 2021 budget. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Come back to you, Council.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution and review of approved amendment to the fiscal year 2021 budget.
I'll second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Danielle. All in favor, starting with Bardell.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, item number 3 is to consider daytime irrigation restrictions. We do this every year, as noted in the background for this item. Given our drought conditions, we're bumping the date up a little bit earlier than normal. And so we'll go ahead and have Renee give us an overview of this.
Hi, and thank you for your time. We are bumping this up a little bit. It has been an exceptionally dry year. The state's in a drought. Our reservoir storage is low. So we're going to request that we ask our customers to water between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. because that's the coolest part of the day. More water will go into the soil rather than be evaporated. And I'm going to add the same request I did last year as well, as if it could be completed at a time other than between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m., which is the highest demand on the water system. And if all of your neighbors are also watering while you're trying to take a shower to go to work, you may have a little bit of low water pressure. So if we can just work around that, that would be greatly appreciated. And I also wanted to note it's, again, a culinary water restriction. We have facilities that irrigate with raw irrigation quality water that includes reuse water, which is water that's been treated after a second time through the wastewater treatment plant. That water, our capacity on that system is lower, as is our storage capacity. So the large users like the city golf club, golf courses and city parks, much of the school district facilities, water with the irrigation quality water, and they will do it as they have the resource available to them, which is still a better choice than trying to upsize our drinking water system to allow them to water in a 12-hour period.
And it doesn't seem, as long as I've been here, as many times as we say that to people, that if they see the sprinklers on in the middle of the day at a park or a golf course, that is coming from our secondary water system.
It is.
It just doesn't seem to resonate.
And the parks and the golf courses have also done a lot to improve their irrigation efficiency. So they are working hard to be wise users of water and provide us with green space for recreation and family time.
I would just encourage everyone that if you see your neighbor watering during the day, just kindly go over and say, did you know there is this water restriction? Because this year we are in such a severe drought, and maybe adjust your clock. Yeah. If I didn't know about it, I wouldn't be angry if somebody came and asked me to do that. Or if you see a broken sprinkler head that's shooting,
Right.
So I found out when I got my water bill this month, I have a broken sprinkler pipe. Because we had fertilized and just watered for a week, but with a broken pipe, it's noticeable when you get your water bill.
It is. And one thing to keep in mind too, our residents use about 4 times the amount of water on their outside area as they do indoors. That's a significant amount of water outside.
Renee, you pointed out when you were here the other day, and I think it's worth repeating, that the water district has a lot of resources for people also.
Thank you. Yes, it is. The Water District offers a lot of different rebate programs. They've got one for moving or changing your irrigation or your landscape to more water efficient landscape, or if you're removing grass so you're going to reduce the number of valves you have, there's a rebate for that. They also offer a free water check program. So if you don't know how long you should water your sprinklers based on what your system can do, they'll send out a trained intern, they'll run your system, they'll give you a suggested irrigation schedule to allow you to use less water but maintain a healthy lawn. It's a really good resource.
And they have all of those resources on their website if people will go visit their website and find that out. So
Yeah.
thanks so much, Renee. We appreciate all
You're
you do.
welcome. Thank you for considering it.
Council, I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the daytime irrigation restrictions for those that irrigate with culinary water.
Second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Vardell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
For item 4, as part of our operation of the wastewater treatment plant, the state requires us through the Utah Water Quality Board to go through a self-assessment each year. And so Scott will provide a little bit of information on this and tell us what grade we're giving ourselves.
That is a great system, isn't it? We can grade ourselves.
This year we got an A+.
Awesome.
And it's not because we graded our own paper. It was because we actually deserve it. So as part of the requirement from the Division of Drinking Water, the Drinking Water Board, we do conduct a self-assessment each year. And it's really a great opportunity for us to take the time to actually evaluate how we're doing with the wastewater treatment plant as well as the wastewater collection system. And so this self-assessment, we look at not only the way we're operating the treatment plant and the collection system, we also look at our finances, make sure we're in order financially. And then a lot of stress is placed on future planning. As you know, there's a lot of growth occurring right now, and it has for several years. So we're always aware of that. We're always taking the effort to plan for the future. So we did fare very well in our self-assessment. Our systems are running efficiently. We've just finished a first phase of an expansion at our treatment plant that's running very well. We're under construction on phase 2. That's a three-year project. But the treatment plant is running well. The collection system is running well. It is showing signs in certain areas of aging that we're aware of, and we're planning for that. Financially, we're sound. The important part of this planning tool, as far as the finances go, we have to look at a long time frame. If you're to look just 1 year snapshot of our finances, it would appear that we're not doing very well. You know, we're right in the middle of completing our $25 million plant expansion. We've bonded for another $40 million. If you were to look at just the snapshot of today, thinking, okay, you're bringing in this amount of money, but yet you're spending this amount of money, you're not doing so hot. But if you look at the big picture, it's all planned for. We know that certain years we're going to be in a deficit, and other years we're going to build a reserve. So we look at the planning as a long-term planning and prepare ourselves for what lies ahead. But we've done a great job. Our crews have done a great job of maintaining and operating the system. We did this year have one sewer overflow that was reported to the state. You're aware of the extreme flooding, the flooding event that we had in August of this last year, where the stormwater overwhelmed our sewer collection system in certain areas of the town, and we did have some overflow that was reported to the state. There's nothing we could have done about that. It was just one of those things that happens, unfortunately. So we did have one incident that was reported to the state. But other than that, we've fared very, very well this year. Do you have any questions that I might be able to answer?
Scott, I was just thinking about those backflow preventers. Why doesn't the state just require those?
That's a good question.
In new construction. Should I call somebody? Who do I call?
In the plumbing code does require them in certain incidences,
right?
But
not
across the board.
Yeah.
No. And they are a maintenance item. If you have one, you have to maintain it. But since that flooding event, where we offered to help some of those residents with the cost of installing that backflow device, and we have had several hit us up on that offer and have helped several families that way.
And that was a great thing we did to help those residents so that that doesn't happen to them again. Any more questions for Scott? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the resolution accepting the municipal wastewater planning program self-assessment.
Second.
Motion by Vardell, seconded by Brian. This is a resolution, so we'll start with Danielle.
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Jumping ahead to item 6, this is to consider a rezone application for Planning Area 3 at Davario from R110 Single Family to PDR, Plan Development Residential. You did see this, or at least a little bit different version of this last year, back in November. The developers made a few changes, and so it's coming back to you now for consideration, and Dan's going to have our presentation.
Thank you. So just by way of a brief reminder of what you saw before back in November, this is the site outlined in red on your screen. Gap Canyon Parkway is here. Canyon View Drive is here. So the property kind of where that T intersection is, that's where the property is, right in front of you. Property is currently today zoned R110, so a residential single family 10,000 square foot lot zoning category, and is general planned MDR, medium density residential. This is this was the original concept site plan that you saw. So you saw 4 buildings up, fairly close to the road, with some parking along here between the road and the buildings. Each building had 54 units for a total of 216 total units on the site. And then, of course, the amenities and so forth. And they had kind of tried to pull them all down to the southern end of the site as much as possible, leaving this northern end open. So they took a look at that. They went back to the drawing board. They looked at the site. Oh, this is the landscape plan that you saw as well. They took a look at the site and said, how many townhomes could we get? Because the feedback that they received was that there's a lot of height to those buildings. There's a lot of density. What could they get then if they just planned it for townhomes? So they took a look at the site, laid it out, and this is what they came up with. This was 214 units. And this is what they felt they could reasonably get on the site as far as townhomes go. So they went back to the drawing board and did kind of a hybrid. They actually had several different iterations of the site and what they could get, either with townhomes, the combination of 2, maybe just using the stacked. And this is what they came up with, kind of a combination of the townhomes and the stacked units. So in this proposal, you'll see 3 buildings. Down here at the southern end, you have each building would have 48 units. And then the townhomes up above on the northern end of the property. So the breakdown is 62 townhomes, 144 stacked units, again 48 units in each of the 3 buildings. So that's their proposal today. This is the updated elevation. I kind of buzzed through the old one. They look very similar. They've muted the colors in this one, so they're hoping that they would blend in better to the on the site. That was another one of the items that they received from the council, is that that they kind of stood out. Those colors were kind of bold, so they're trying to mute those. This is a look at the elevations of the proposed townhomes. 27.5
Dan,
feet.
how come the screen in front of you isn't on?
Is it not?
It's not working.
Oh.
It's just easier for us to see that
for
screen.
Sure. I'm sorry about that. Is there anything you want me to go
It's
back?
on. No,
to?
that's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Happy to do so if you'd like. So these are the townhomes that are proposed. Let me go back really quick to these. I forgot to mention, to the very highest peak or point of these, this is about 42.5 feet. It's about 38, I believe 38.5 to the roof line. So that's the height of the proposed 3-story stacked units. Then again, the townhomes. And then just some perspective, this is what the townhomes would look like. And these are the renderings of the stacked units.
Dan, will you go back to the townhomes for just
Certainly.
a second?
Yep.
I was noticing that it looks like those have garages at the back of them. Where is the
That's
parking
right.
for? But it didn't
Oh.
look like on this that the parking was.
Yep, let me go
at
back
the
to that.
back.
Yep, good point. So they are proposing, this has a lot of parking associated with it. They're not asking for any deviations to parking. As far as the townhomes go, each townhome would have a single car garage and then a driveway that would be at least 20 feet to accommodate that second parking stall that they'd need.
So so do the townhomes look like what we're seeing, or are they different? Is the garage coming from the front?
Oh, sorry.
And it's
go
a
back.
different design? Or,
So this,
'cause
yeah,
that
this.
one is a design where, right? Unless I'm seeing it wrong, that's a design where the garage
So,
is at the back.
so kind of back in here is where, yeah, these are actually, this is actually like a siding, a type of siding. These aren't the garages. I had to look at this couple of times, but this isn't the garage. The garage is actually back here, and so those are accessed from that interior street.
There is an interior street.
Yeah,
I guess I was just
yeah. Let me go.
confused at the layout.
Yep,
Okay.
right there. So it'd be accessed from this street in here. And then these would be the back. The driveways would be here, and then they'd face kind of out.
Oh, okay.
And if that sounds right, okay. So I'm telling you the right thing. Yep. And then again, just the renderings of the stacked units. So that's their proposal. If you want me to go over anything else, the original proposal or this one, I'm happy to do so.
Questions for Dan? Do you have any questions for the applicant? No questions. No questions? Okay then. I'll entertain a motion if you have no questions. We've seen this a couple times. We've asked the developer to go back, and I think he came back with something that you were asking for.
Yeah, Councilman MacArthur and I went out there and walked the whole property, and I definitely feel a lot better about this layout. I feel like they definitely decreased the massing in the spaces where it makes sense to have the massing be less, and where there's the buildings with the greater mass. Being out there on the property, it actually feels like those buildings off to that, where they've got them right now, will be a good location. And I appreciate them coming back with the more muted colors. I think this is just a much better product. So,
and I know some of the letters we're concerned with, obviously, the traffic on Canyon View Drive, and Cameron Cutler, our Public Works Director, in this next fiscal year, that light at Canyon View and Dixie Drive will be designed, and then we'll get to work on that. So that will be a great addition to have on Canyon View and Dixie Drive. And this is going to take a while to build out, so
yeah,
hopefully the light comes before the buildings.
And Mayor, a couple more things that I was just going to point out that I think we're getting a lot of confusion over is when property is brought into the city, it comes in under a placeholder, and that placeholder is R110, and I feel like that can be really distressing for people because they feel like R110 is the final zone for any property that's R110, and it's our placeholder. And so just knowing that we do have a general plan, that if people, are buying, that they can look at our general plan. It's on our website, and it shows the general plan for, say, this development, and that it isn't all R110 in the general plan. That's just something I thought maybe would help the public to understand how it seems like it's different than what you're seeing. So,
You have a comment, Sean?
Yes, that's a very good point, and I think that's what's occurred out there. Now, John recognized this. We had some problems with hillsides even being zoned R110 when they were brought in. So now when we annex property, it comes in as ag unless we have a development agreement with that property owner to zone it something differently. So just so you'll know, even now we've taken care of that problem, but it still exists on the ground zoning out there showing as R110 when we have a master plan that was adopted as part of that development agreement that has, in the general plan also of the city, reflects what that master plan has.
Any other comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion then.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve an ordinance changing the zoning from R110, single-family residential, 10,000 square foot lot size, to PDR, planned development residential, on approximately 24.11 acres, located on the west side of the intersection of Canyon View Drive and Gap Canyon Parkway, known as Rilasante at Davario.
I'll second.
Motion by Vardell, seconded by Gregg. This is an ordinance calling for a roll call vote. All in favor, starting with Vardell.
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
I thought our new rule is that the person making the motion had to say it in like an Italian accent.
I know, I was just going to say that. We're all going to have to learn Italian with all these.
I'm not going to do it.
That's why Brian wouldn't make the motion, he said.
Item number 7 is to consider an ordinance to rezone a portion of Desert Color known as Desert Color Resort Phase 5. Dan, do you have this presentation?
Well, I do, but I can't seem to get Zoom to come back up.
Is it a Zoom?
It's a Zoom glitch here. So it's my own
There we
glitch.
go.
Got it. Perfect. Yep. Thank you. I think I got it figured out. Okay, this next one is in Desert Color Resort. For approval of an ordinance amending Desert Color Plan Development Residential Zone for a new phase in the Desert Color Resort area, known as Desert Color Resort Phase 5, approximately 12.03 acres. This is a look at the property. The lagoon, I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, have seen, is right in this area here. Recently, you saw and approved a project over in this area. So this is just across the lagoon on that kind of south, really on the west side of the lagoon. We're looking at 27 single-family homes and 26 townhomes here tonight. These will all be platted. There's an accompanying preliminary plat that will go with this. These areas that you see that are hatched are areas that will be planned later, at a later date. They're still part of 5, but they are phase 5, but they not all the designs have been made, and so they will come back before you at a later date for your approval on those. Really what we're looking at tonight are these areas in blue. These are the townhomes. So I'll go through those here really quick. This is a look at the product before you. You've actually seen these before. There are some of these being constructed in other parts of the resort, and Coal West would like to build these also in this phase 5. And again, look at the elevations, the perspective. Parking, let me go back to this. Parking was a little different. They're not asking for any sort of deviations, but the difference is that there is parking right next to each one of these units for guest parking, which is nice that they're spread out, a little bit different than what we typically see, but they've put those right next to each one of those units. So again, not asking for any deviations or anything to the code, but just wanted to point that out, that it's a little different. And then again, the elevations. The Planning Commission saw this proposal and made a recommendation for approval with it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Questions, comments for Dan? You guys all asleep? You need some caffeine? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion, Mayor, if you're okay, to approve the amendment to the Desert Color Plan Development Residential Zone for the new phase known as Desert Color Resort Phase 5 on approximately 12.3 acres.
I'll second.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy, seconded by Danielle. All in favor, starting with Vardell.
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Next up is a look at the Dinosaur Crossing PD Master Sign Plan Amendment.
Okay, this one is to amend the Dinosaur Crossing Plan Development Commercial Zone in order to amend the master sign plan, and it's known as the Dinosaur Crossing PD Master Sign Plan Amendment, approximately 26.89 acres, located at approximately 639 South Mall Drive. This is the location of the property. The specific sign, and it is really just a sign that I guess we're talking about two signs really in this proposal, will be right here. All the signs that we're talking about tonight, or both of them, have been approved previously. So I'll go through the proposed change here quickly. You can see the location again here, Mall Drive on this side of the property. And what they are asking for is basically this sign will look like, this is the proposed sign. The approved sign looks just like this, except instead of it being 12 feet tall as depicted here, it's actually, they're approved at 10 feet tall and 75 square feet. They're proposing to eliminate one of the signs that would be over here by the fuel center. So they would eliminate that sign. They would construct this sign, which has already been approved. They could build that sign now, but they want to, in exchange for eliminating the one, be able to build that to the 12 feet instead of the 10 feet and 96 square feet instead of the 75 square feet. So that's their proposal, is to eliminate the one, increase the size of the other. Planning Commission did see this one as well and recommended approval.
So obviously eliminating that other sign, maybe they just decided it wasn't getting enough visibility in that area.
That sign that they're eliminating actually hasn't been constructed yet. And so it's one that they could construct if they, they've got approval for, but yeah, I think they felt like they'd be better served by a bigger sign in this location.
Okay.
Yeah.
To educate us, is that a typical thing where signs on developments are eliminated and so they can be amassed into other signs? Is that a typical thing?
I don't think we see that a lot, no. But in this case, it was, again, I think they just felt it would be, they'd be better served by the bigger sign.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
Make a motion to approve.
Go ahead.
The ordinance amending the Dinosaur Crossing Plan Development Commercial Zone in order to amend the master plan, sign plan. The project known as Dinosaur Crossing PD Master Sign Plan Amendment on approximately 26.89 acres located on approximately 639 South Mall Drive.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Vardell. All in favor, starting with Brian.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Wake you people up.
Well, it's now the moment you've all been waiting for. This is the Sean Guzman show for the next 4 items. And so, Sean, go ahead and let's hear about the annexation for the Burt Burgess property.
Let me tilt my chair back.
Talk about waking us up.
Hey, I get paid by the word that I write, not speak. So that's Mr. Entz that gets paid the money for that. This council's consideration of a resolution to either accept or deny a petition for annexation of approximately 174 acres located west of Dixie Drive on the former Burt Burgess property. And this annexation was probably one of the first projects that came to my desk years ago when I first started the city 18 years ago. That property has been piecemealed in the annexation. One of the things that we have insisted on from the very beginning is that when this annexation come in, that a condition of that annexation is that the right-of-way for what is now Gap Canyon Drive be dedicated Some of that roadway is on the property, and luckily for us, enough to get 2 lanes and 2 bike lanes within with this annexation. This is just the beginning of the process. It's not the end of the process, but it's your the council's opportunity to weigh in and signal whether you would consider the annexation in the future once they go through all of the processes they need to follow under state law. One of the conditions on the annexation then will be that full width of Gap Canyon Drive be dedicated to the city that's on their property. And there also is a power easement too that's needed, and Lori's not here, but we've always talked to the Burgesses over the years about that as necessary. We've met with Matt Ince, who's here today, representing the applicants, and the applicants were very good to work with. We had a very good meeting with them, and so we would recommend approval, acceptance of this petition on the condition that roadway and the required easement or the needed easement for utilities also be included or dedicated in that annexation process. I'm sure there might be a few more questions, but I'll turn it over to Matt now because I don't want to get paid anymore for anything that he might want to say.
Hello, council members. I actually don't have anything prepared for you tonight. I thought maybe it would help if I just gave you a little context about who my client is and what their involvement in this property is, so you know why we're pursuing this. And beyond that, I'd love to answer any questions that you might have. But I represent a company called Husky Partners, LLC. It's a partnership of several individuals, some of whom have interacted with staff and already, and so staff is familiar with who these gentlemen are. They have put the Burgess properties under contract to buy with the intention of developing those properties. So they haven't closed on those properties yet, but what they've done is in cooperation with the owners of the Burgess properties and the neighboring Sunscape Farms properties, they've gotten the consent of those property owners to move forward with this annexation process in the meantime. And the property owners have signed the petition that was submitted to the city council, and they've authorized my clients, Husky Partners, to essentially act as their agents in this process. So that's why we're here. My clients are still in the process of due diligence on the properties, so they're looking forward to completing that process, of which this annexation process is a part. And we have started, as Sean mentioned, some discussions with staff about the details of how the annexation will happen. We're looking forward to receiving the details on the alignment of the road so that we can start working on that dedication plat. And once that's ready to go, we'll go back to the property owners for their signatures on that dedication plat, because they'll have to give their consent to that as well. One of the other things that we're discussing with staff as well is when the annexation is completed, if you give final approval for it, whether that property will come in as the placeholder zone that was mentioned earlier in the meeting, or whether there will be some kind of a development agreement that will provide a different master plan for that property. So those things are still in discussion. We look forward to visiting with staff some more about those details, and all of that, of course, will have to be resolved before it comes back to you for a final approval. But with that, I'll just offer to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Ince? This is a start to something that we need desperately.
And Matt, I will say one thing. I was going to ask you on the phone. I forgot the other day. We asked if you'd contact Sitla to see if they were interested in annexing the property to the west. Did you make contact with them?
I'll have to follow up with my clients and see if they've done that or not.
If not, I mean, the local guys, just reach out to Kyle and see if they are, because we would just like to get that all done at one time if we can do it.
Okay. I'll make a point to check with them this next week for sure. So.
Okay. Great.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
Ready for a motion, council?
I'd like to make the motion, but I just want to confirm with Sean that the conditions are that part of that annexation process is conditioned on approval of a dedicated roadway that would include a utility corridor.
That's correct.
I then would make a motion that we approve the petition for annexation for approximately 174 acres located west of Dixie Drive on the former Burt Burgess property, conditioned on there be a dedicated roadway and utility corridor.
For Gap Canyon Drive.
Thank you. For Gap Canyon Drive.
Second.
Motion by Vardell, seconded by Brian. All in favor, starting with Jimmy.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
He's got to be quicker. Yeah.
Mr. Sean.
Okay, the next two items, I'm going to discuss 10 and 11 together, but you will need to vote on them separately. The first item is a resolution to waive the notice requirement terminating the interlocal cooperation agreement with Washington County regarding the 2019 election services. We did an interlocal with Washington County to provide those services for our last election. They have since decided to change some of the terms for that interlocal agreement, but they did not give the proper notice, and they, rather than amend it, they just did a whole new agreement. So we want to waive that termination notice requirement and terminate that agreement altogether, and then adopt item 11 is what we're recommending, and that is approval of a resolution entering into an interlocal agreement with Washington County regarding election services, and hopefully this one will just continue from this point forward and not have any changes to it.
Thanks for explaining that, because I read it like 3 times and I couldn't figure out what we were doing, so you made it much simpler.
So I'll take a motion on number 10, and then we'll come back to 11.
Motion to approve a resolution to waive the notice requirement and terminating the interlocal cooperation agreement with Washington County regarding the 2019 election services.
Second.
Motion by Danielle.
That's a long
like I've
name.
never said your name before. Seconded by Vardell. All in favor, starting with Greg.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. And now I will entertain a motion on item number 11.
Motion to approve the resolution entering into an interlocal agreement with Washington County regarding election services for 2021.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy, seconded by Danielle. All in favor, starting with Danielle.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Item number 12 is to consider approval of a resolution adopting the First Amendment interlocal agreement supporting the renewed desert tortoise incidental take permit issued to Washington County. As you know, the former agreement with the federal government expired, and that's what we've been negotiating. That's involving the inclusion of Area 6-2. Just want to point out that that area will not be formally included unless we get the northern corridor approved and built. But what this essentially does is continue the agreement that we had in place before. One change you already took care of last meeting, and that is in addition to in the former agreement, in addition to the 0.2% based on construction cost fee that was paid to the habitat, there was the $250 per acre fee that was paid, and they've eliminated that $250 per acre fee. You took care of that at the last council meeting. This is simply adopting now the new agreement.
Sean, what does that mean, not formally accepted? Does that mean that if the northern corridor was not built, that we would renegotiate?
It just means
Zone
that,
6?
well, Zone 6 would just remain Sittler property and not be included in the
So it's kind
habitat.
of in a holding
That's right.
pattern until...
Because that was the agreement, was in exchange for the few acres that are actually going to be affected of habitat for the northern corridor, because it's really not that many acres that actually go through the habitat from the northern corridor. We get far more, we get thousands of acres out here that we'll include of good tortoise habitat and set that aside. But that was part of the negotiation and agreement.
Any other questions? Ready for motion?
Make a motion to approve adopting the First Amendment integral agreement supporting the renewed desert tortoise take permit issued to Washington County.
Second.
Motion to approve the resolution by Brian, seconded by Danielle. All in favor, starting with Bardell.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. I have no appointments to boards or commissions. Anybody have any reports?
I have an announcement just of on April 24th, there's a sexual assault awareness march at the True by Hilton at 10 a.m.
That's the heels to heels,
The
right?
heels, yep. You march in heels, so.
Jimmy
Guys,
said he would be
you got
there with his heels.
Okay. So come and march in your heels for sexual assault awareness. That's it.
Any reports, Jimmy?
Just quickly, the Switchpoint board, things are going really, really good at Switchpoint. We're starting to make a lot of headway on the state level. They're starting to recognize us. Some of that comes from our emergency shelter management that we've done this last year. In fact, Salt Lake has actually come back to us and asked us to help with another project that you might hear more of in the very near future. And it's actually gaining momentum with some private donors that are willing to put in quite a bit of money to purchase a substantial piece of property in Salt Lake for an emergency housing shelter. So what that's doing is it's helping us be on the map down here so they don't forget southern Utah like they have done in the past when some of that homeless money is divvied out, because we're showing them that we do know how to take care of a problem, not just spend money on it, and to help those people who need help and get them back to where they can be in a home and contributing members of society that have a safe place to stay and can find joy and happiness in their life. So it's very cool. So you'll hear more on that.
And aren't they having an online fundraiser coming up
Yes, on
soon?
the 27th.
27th?
Yes. Anything else, Shirlane, that I missed, or did I say too much?
That's great.
Yeah. So if you want to know anything, ask Shirlane. She just makes sure everything happens.
Yeah, and that's an all-day fundraiser, right? So people can log on and...
They're doing two.
Okay.
Virtual, one at 8 a.m. and one at 7 p.m.
Okay.
I believe, and you can register for both through their website, switchpointcrc.org.
Good
Thank
to
you,
know.
Shirlane.
Brian?
Two things. I'd like to congratulate Andy Mickelson for his 20 outstanding years of service with the police department. He retired today, sorry. And we hope him many years of happiness on his new adventure, which sounds like it should be a great time. And
Competing in what? Ironmans everywhere?
Yeah.
That does not sound like a great time. I'm sorry. Good for him.
Each have their own. You know.
I know, right?
And we went out to the fair this morning for the Korean War veterans, which was outstanding. It was Bardell and I had the opportunity to meet these gentlemen, and it was a great tribute to them, and they well deserved. So the war was a forgotten war, but let's not forget the veterans. So thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Greg, any reports?
Yeah, I'll make a quick report. I thought something that I did last Friday I thought was quite interesting, worth mentioning. I went with Myron Lee, and he took me on a tour of the Northern Corridor, exactly where it's going to go through. And when you actually go up and see where the road will go, it pretty much, for the majority of the road, goes right along development that is there. It's, you know, when you just imagine it and you're thinking, well, this is going to go up through certain areas and things, and when you actually see where it is, it's actually a lot more functional and closer to development when you see it. I just want to make that mention. So if anybody has questions on the Northern Corridor still, even though it has been approved, I'd recommend kind of getting acquainted with where it goes through. I thought it was something worth mentioning.
Did you go by the old dump?
I went exactly by the old dump.
Yeah.
I walked where it would come down off of where the old dump where it was disturbed.
Right.
Where it comes across, and then when it gets over to the Washington area, basically all the homes and everything are developed right up to where it's going to come around.
Yeah.
So it's not disturbing is again, in the mindset when you don't know exactly where it goes, sometimes you're thinking it's going through very pristine. It's a very beautiful area. I got to be careful what I say here.
Yes.
But it's,
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because when I said the few acres, I was hoping that people would understand what we were talking about, that there's a lot of disturbance there already. And this is coming from someone who lives right, I walk out my front yard and I see that, that preserve right above me, and I'm so glad that it's there. But where that roadway alignment is, they really took a lot of time to try to find one that did had the least impact.
That's exactly right, and that's what I found. Yeah, it does go through an old dump, and it was where everybody dumped their trash back before pre-1980 something, and so I think they did a good job of declaring the route after seeing it. I just want to mention that.
Bardo?
Just a comment, and it's probably more appropriate for Greg to share this report than me, but this past a couple of days ago, Greg hosted the shareholders meeting for his economic development group, and had GoEd and Utah Development Corporation. I don't know what they're called. Anyway, it was very exciting to hear and see what their thoughts are for Southern Utah. But Shirlane gave a report there that I think really made St. George proud. So I appreciated her representation, and Greg for hosting us.
I just have a couple of quick things. Hope you'll all, I know, I didn't forget. I'm just following the agenda, guys.
Everybody's ready to jump.
I saw Brian start putting his stuff away, and I was just gonna wait and break the bad news to him. Yeah. Yeah. We'll excuse Jimmy because he has to go. But so the Utah League of Cities and Towns is holding their mid-year conference here live in person next week. So and they've got some great speakers lined up, and hopefully you'll be able to attend those workshops. And so we're looking forward to hosting them here in our beautiful city. And hopefully our video is not too cheesy when we see it that we did for them. But I don't know, maybe we'll pick up a reality TV series or something out of it. Who knows?
Ellie saw us. She was out writing, and she said we looked ridiculous.
I know, but that's Ellie. She's a teenager. All teenagers think we look ridiculous. But one quick thing I wanted to mention is on Monday I was invited to a luncheon at the Catholic Church to celebrate the Catholic Church's thrift store. And I thought I was going to be walking into about 20 or so volunteers. It was a luncheon specifically for their volunteers. There was about 120 people in that room. And Angie Middleberger, which isn't her last name now because she's remarried. Jimmy, you know Doug and Angie Middleberger. Mm-hmm. Doug's Donuts, yeah. Exactly. Yep. They moved here in 1974, and they had a donut shop up on the boulevard that everyone went to, and a lot of our teachers in high school would let us leave school as long as we were going up to get donuts and bring them back to class. It was fabulous. You couldn't get away with that nowadays. But so Angie was there to speak. She's moved to Phoenix, then she came back, and she was talking about my father-in-law, Charlie Randall, and Bill Given were staples at the donut shop. Imagine that. And one day she said to them, I am so tired of doing bake sales and yard sales to try to raise money for the Catholic Church. And at that time in 1974, there were 25 Catholics in our area. She said it was our family, the Odette family, which many of us still know, yeah, and another family in Leeds, and how that congregation has grown so much. But she said, I mentioned to Charlie and Bill Given I wanted to start a thrift store. And they just laughed at me and said, good luck with that. And in the Pendleton Furniture Building that currently exists off the boulevard is where the first thrift store started. And she said they didn't even make enough money the first month to pay the rent, which was $200. Now they have two thrift stores. One's the thrift store down at the Catholic Church, and then they have a boutique thrift store, like Switch Point just opened their boutique one, over kind of by Costco in that shopping complex that has Bishops in it. Anyway, those volunteers, there were some in the room that have been volunteering there for over 15 years. And these aren't spring chickens. And They're your age, Sean. And anyway, and I just told them, I just spoke for a minute, but it is people like them that make this community so dang awesome to live. The volunteer spirit here is just awesome. And Angie's like, I never thought 40 years later that thrift store that was just an idea that, and she pointed to me, that your father-in-law shot down would be thriving today. So that was just so fun to go and walk in and see all those volunteers. So, you know, it's great. And with the Ironman coming up on May 1st, when we met with the Ironman people, Adam and I had the opportunity to go to lunch with the World Ironman Championship. Will be here in September. And, you know, it came down to St. George and Chattanooga, Tennessee. And the Ironman people, I just call them people, they have titles, but they're people, said the reason they chose St. George was because of our people. Yep. And it just, you know, it is what it is, and it's amazing and great. So that's all I have. We don't have need for a closed session, but we need to now adjourn from, we're going to excuse Jimmy to go.
Yeah, one thing before I go, you reminded me of something. Next week, while you're all doing League of Cities, the Dixie Junior Livestock Show is going to be going on at the fairgrounds. So if you get a second, come out there. You'll see a whole bunch of kids showing, 100-pound kids showing 1,500-pound animals, and it's a lot of fun. So Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Awesome.
Okay, have fun.
And we're glad that's happening this year too, right? So now I need a motion to go out of City Council.
You can just adjourn from City.
Okay, motion to adjourn from City Council.
Second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Vardell. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Now I need a motion to go into the neighborhood. Do I need a motion to go into it? Yes. Okay. Motion to go into the Neighborhood Redevelopment Agency meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Vardell, seconded by Greg. Now we are here.
Item number 1 on the redevelopment agency agenda is going to look very familiar. We did this when you were wearing your city council hat earlier. Do you have any questions?
Questions, council?
Nope.
I'll entertain a motion. Oh, no, it's a public hearing. Anybody who has come to comment on the resolution to review and approve the amendments to the fiscal year 2021 budget, the RDA budget, I'll open that public hearing. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Now I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, motion to approve amendments to the fiscal year 2020-2021 St. George RDA budget.
Second.
Motion by Danielle, seconded by Vardell. All in favor, starting with Danielle?
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
And finally, to consider the minutes from the October 1st, 2020 RDA meeting.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the October 1st, 2020 meeting.
Second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Brian. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now I will entertain a motion to adjourn from the Neighborhood Redevelopment Agency meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Greg, seconded by Danielle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are done.
Have we ever opposed? Somebody's got to oppose one of these days.
Somebody's got to oppose us being
Demand we
done.
stay in the meeting.
You don't oppose the end.